At Kroger, shopping with pickup and delivery is the same as shopping in-store. Same low prices, deals, and rewards on the same high-quality items. It's one small click for groceries, one big win for busy families everywhere. Start your cart today at Kroger.com. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one transaction. Check our app for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
So, how does it feel when you play Roll Up to Win with Tim Hortons? Buy a hot or cold beverage using the Tim's app and find out. Roll in the app for a chance to win prizes ranging from free coffee and donuts to a Universal Orlando resort vacation or a sweet car. Oh, don't forget the TV. And this year, every roll is a shot at a $1,000 daily giveaway drawing for 2 $500 prizes. Roll up to win and get treated by Tim's. No purchase necessary. Account registration required. 50 U.S. and D.C. 18 plus entered by 4/2/23. See rules at rolluptowin.com for free entry and full details. Void in Florida and where prohibited.
Hello there. Before we get into this week's episode, I just wanted to let you guys know that there will be no main episodes for about a month because I am taking a break, but there will be mini episodes in main episodes place. So there will be 3 mini episodes a week rather than 2 mini episodes in a main episode, and that will be until around, I think I'm back on the 14th of May is when the next main episode will be. I am actually away making content. I say I'm taking a break, but I'm not very good at taking breaks. So I am away, but I'm also making content. So just to repeat that, there will be no main episodes until the 14th of May, but there will be 3 mini episodes per week during that time period. Thank you so much for your patience and your understanding, and I will speak to you all soon. Hello and welcome to mini episode 241 of Real Life Ghost Stories, and I have 3 spooky stories for you today, and the last story comes from December the 1st, 2022, and story number 1 comes from Adrian. I was probably around 13 or 14 and home alone. My mum worked nights and my dad had just left to go and pick her up. It takes about an hour to drive to pick her up and an hour to drive home, so I had the house to myself for a little bit. It was around 9 p.m, so it was dark out. I was in my room chilling and playing video games when all of a sudden I heard a loud knock at the front door. We had a fly screen, so when you'd knock on it, it made a very distinct rattling and banging, and a voice calling my name. Adrian. I immediately recognised this voice as my mum's voice, so like I did most nights, I got up and grabbed the keys off the counter and headed towards the door. When I heard another knock on the fly screen, I called out loud, "I'm coming, hold on a second." I unlocked the door and opened it only to be met with darkness. The motion detecting light at my front door wasn't even on. This was strange. But what was stranger was when I opened the fly screen and walked out, our electric gate was still closed and no car was in our driveway. And the only light present was the motion detecting light that had just turned on as I walked outside, and the one dimly lit street lamp halfway down the cul-de-sac. The realisation that no one was outside sent a chill down my spine I still feel today when I tell this story to people. I freaked out and immediately rushed back inside and locked the doors. I very distinctly heard my mum's voice. I felt completely calm when I heard it because to me it was my mum at the door calling my name and knocking. And as I said before, my dad had just left maybe 15 minutes earlier to go and pick up my mum, who worked an hour away, and would take an hour to come back. My parents eventually did show up at around 11 p.m. I heard the gate open and the car drive up and the light turned on, and like before, I heard my name being called and knocking on the fly screen exactly like I'd heard before. Thankfully this time I wasn't met with darkness, but with my mum saying, "Hurry up and let me in, it's fucking freezing." When both my parents were inside, I told them about it, and my dad was concerned that maybe a neighbour came over or someone was at the door, so my dad, who was working in security most of his life, checked the security camera aimed at the front door. We were both a little confused by what we saw. It was just me, opening the front door, keys in hand, and walking out a little, only to rush back inside. No one was at the front door. No one had ever been at the front door. But someone with my mum's voice called my goddamn name and was knocking at my front door. This story always makes me tear up and freak out. I've always wanted to tell it to more than just my family and friends. This wasn't the only strange thing that happened at that house. But the other strange things were minor, the sounds of pots and pans being clinked and banged together from inside the cupboard, and strange feelings you would get when walking down the hallway towards my parents' room at the back of the house. Something always felt off about that room. I think stories like this are really frightening because what is seemingly like a really standard, normal, non-event suddenly turns out to be something completely different. Like if you hear somebody knocking at the door and calling your name, you not just somebody, your mother, you're not even going to register that might be a weird thing until you get outside and there's nobody there. It always makes me wonder about like what this is. Is it like a time slip where, I don't know, the sound that you hear later like travelled through time somehow? Is it something that is mimicking the sound of your mother, but if so, why? To then just not be there when you open the door. There sort of doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it, which is what makes it much scarier, I think. And I don't blame you. Like, hearing this story is really quite frightening because you think, oh my gosh, imagine if it was me and I heard my mum calling me and then there was nobody there. So I totally understand why it makes you tear up. And I also totally understand wanting to tell people about it. I'd imagine there's something very cathartic about being able to say, this happened to me, please listen to my story, and just accept that this happened and it was really, really scary. But if there's one thing that we've learned from this podcast, it's that you are not alone with this one, because we've had multiple stories of people who have heard parents, siblings, partners, whoever it was, heard their voice calling them, and then it turned out it wasn't their voice at all. So who is it? And why is it doing this? Today's episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. Hello.
Do you like scary movies?
Yeah, that's kind of my whole shtick.
Do you like spending hours scrolling on TikTok and diagnosing yourself with various medical conditions as a result?
You've been watching me.
I am here to tell you something, so listen closely. ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, are available when you need them, and treat almost every condition under the sun.
Okay, right. I'm confused. Is this not meant to be more murdery? More stabby?
Yeah, I actually think I've gotten a bit of a bad rep, to be honest. And I'm trying a new approach, more helpful, more human.
Wow, weird. But I'm listening.
Surprise twists may work for horror movies, but not for medical care. With ZocDoc, there is no alarm and no surprises. Choose from thousands of patient-reviewed doctors and specialists, browse doctor profiles, upload and verify your insurance information, and get the care you need.
I hear what you are saying, but this might be the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me.
Go to ZocDoc.com/ghost and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/ghost.
At Kroger, shopping with pickup and delivery is the same as shopping in-store. Same low prices, deals, and rewards on the same high-quality items. It's one small click for groceries, one big win for busy families everywhere. Start your cart today at Kroger.com. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one transaction. Check our app for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Obtén los precios más bajos de la temporada en Macy's en todo lo que necesitas para la primavera, como un 50-60% menos en trajes, blazers y pantalones de sus diseñadores favoritos. Compra más, ahorra más durante la gran venta de zapatos. Recibe un 40% menos con 2 o más pares, 30% con un par. Y ahorra un 30-70% en joyas finas durante nuestra gran venta de diamantes. Además, descarga la aplicación de Macy's gratis hoy por aún más precios más bajos de la temporada. Ahorros sobre precios en oferta y liquidación. Aplican excepciones.
And story number 2 comes from T. I live in an old 450-year-old farmhouse in a small village in England. I'm still creeped out by what I saw. I'm 15 years old and I'm still seeing these people. Since I moved into this house, I've been feeling like I'm being watched a lot. Doors slam in the night, doors that I make sure are latched up tight so no animals can open them, because I'm so spooked out by it. Floorboards creak, but you can tell the difference between a human and an animal. The cat is too light to make a creak, and so is the dog. The footsteps sound like my dad, but I hear them when he's out of the house or when he's downstairs. They're too light to be my mum's footsteps, so I know they are a man's. Probably around the same weight as my dad, but every time I've checked there's been no one around and everyone is asleep. Toilets flush in the night or when I'm alone, and the taps turn on too. The dogs and the cat act odd too when these things happen, like staring at one patch on the wall for ages, or the cat randomly jumping up and sprinting from the room after hearing the footsteps. I was 11 when I first saw them. I was thirsty and went to the bathroom. Something felt off that night, but I was thirsty, so I brushed it off. As I entered the corridor leading to the bathroom, I saw 3 people. Now, being 11, I followed the basic rule of being a kid, when if you're scared, then you jump into bed and cover your head with the duvet. So I sprinted back to bed, closed the door tightly and covered my head. Now, scientists say that the human brain can't make up new faces without basing them on anyone, but I've never seen people who look remotely like these people. It was a family, I think. A woman in a big black dress, like one of those Victorian dresses, and a black hat, holding a white umbrella with a floral pattern. A man stood beside her in a top hat and tails, and then there was the boy. He wore beige 3/4 length shorts, a black t-shirt, and holding a toy train in his left hand, by the string. Their eyes were bright white, but other than that they looked completely normal, despite the fact that they looked like they were from the Victorian era. Their clothes and faces were burnt. Now I know there was a fire in the barn on the farm around 100 or 200 years ago, because some of the beams are still there, left because they were strong enough to stay and support the roof. But no matter how hard I try to find out any information about the house, I never can. It's like it doesn't exist. It's 450 years old, and it's not like it's particularly recent, so it's slightly odd that I can't find anything on it. I'm 15 now, as I said, and I've been seeing these people and hearing these things every few months since, always around the same time at 2 or 3 a.m. I'm not sure what to make of them, as my family don't believe. My sister has always slightly believed in them, but not massively. Now whenever I see them, I either try to talk to them if I'm not too tired, or I just go downstairs to get water or go to the loo. I've only ever heard one of them speak, and that's the boy, but he's only ever said 2 things: help and run. Obviously that really creeps me out, and I'm always jumpy after I hear him. I wasn't sure if I should send it in or not, but thought you might find it interesting. I still can't figure out what happened. There is no record of the house that I can find, but there was a murder in the house up the hill. Okay, T, I'm going to be an annoying older person now, and I'm going to give you some advice. Here is my advice to you. Number 1, I would advise to talk to your family about it. Only because you don't know if they're having similar experiences, and you don't know if maybe they might believe your story, or it might be just good to talk to somebody about what's happening for you, what you're experiencing at night time, because it cannot be pleasant to be experiencing all of that on your own and feeling like you can't talk to anybody about it and trying to manage the fear, because I imagine even though, it seems like whatever you're seeing is completely benign, it still must be terrifying. The other thing that I would advise doing is to go to your local library. Now, local libraries aren't really the done thing anymore because we have Google, and everybody, most people have access to Google on their phones or whatever, so they can just look things up there. However, when you don't know exactly what you're looking for, it can be kind of tricky to find things on Google. But if you go into your local library, they will often have old archives of particular places. They might have access to or help you access old census documents or old newspaper articles from the time period. There are lots of things that you can find in your local library that might actually point you in the right direction as to what is going on in your house. It does sound spectacularly spooky though to be seeing like a fully Victorian dressed family just knocking around in your corridor at night time. I personally would not be a particularly big fan, to be honest. And story number 3 comes from Amanda. Growing up, I played club basketball. My dad had been my coach for years, and as I got older and played more competitively, we travelled quite a bit. He has this red Ford Ranger that would take us to so many practices, games, and sometimes other cities for tournaments. We spent a lot of time together in that truck, often not talking, just being. Because he was my coach, we truly got to spend a lot of extra time together, and I will always cherish that. Fast forward to 2011. My dad was at home in hospice ending his battle with pancreatic cancer. He had been through so much and just couldn't imagine fighting it anymore. When he was a little babe, he suffered from both rheumatic fever and scarlet fever. The doctor suggested that the damage to his lungs was too much and he likely wouldn't be able to play sports, let alone run around like a normal kid. But he proved them wrong by playing basketball, baseball, football and golf. He was an entrepreneur many times over, and he became the family keystone and raised all 6 of his kids with so much love and pride. His grandmother, whom he called Mommy, was the one who raised him. This woman was straight from Appalachia, grew up in a house with a dirt floor, knew how to kill a chicken for dinner, and in her later years she would wear Estee Lauder perfume. If you've ever smelled the stuff, it's quite specific. As my dad lay there in our front room, his once strong 6'2" build etched away by the blackness of cancer, he reminded me of a child. I wasn't living at home anymore. In fact, I was expecting a child of my own. Once he entered hospice, I came back to the house nearly every day to be with him. At times when I wasn't there, he was caught gazing off to one of the corners and saying "Mommy." This happened a few times, as noted by other family members. One morning I arrived and the house was very still. I walked into the foyer and had this overwhelming scent of Estee Lauder engulf my head. I moved around sniffing like a dog and second-guessing myself. It was everywhere. It was undeniable and it was real. It was coming from the front room where my dad was resting. I wish I could say it came from someone in the house or someone who had visited, but no one else had been there that day except for my mom, and she doesn't wear perfume, especially not that one. The day he passed, I was about 17 weeks pregnant. I explained to my doctor that my dad was really sick and I wanted to find out the gender of the baby to share with him. The doctor worked out a way for me to get my anatomy ultrasound early, and we rushed back to the house to deliver the news. My dad's body was giving up and shutting down, and I leaned over and whispered in his ear, "Dad, it's Amanda. I'm having a girl." And he made a sound and moved his head. I know he heard me, and I know that he knew exactly how special that was, considering 5 of his 6 kids were girls. A few short hours later, he slipped away. The following days and weeks were a complete blur. I really don't know when this next part happened, but it remains as clear as day in my memory. I was asleep and dreaming. Suddenly I was shifted into this sunshiny day, sitting passenger side in the Ford Ranger with the windows rolled down. I looked over to see my dad there. He was smiling, healthy, back to his strong and glowing appearance. I shouted, "Dad! Oh my God, what the heck, what are you doing here?" He reached his hand over to pat my leg and glanced at me, and then back to the road. "It's okay," he said, still smiling. I started crying in my dream and said, "I miss you so much." He nodded his head. We just kept driving for a little longer, lost in the moment, and then he was gone. I woke up to the sun shining, the air around me felt warm and comforting. I could feel a tear rolling down my cheek and I realised it was all real. I remember it so clearly. It was such a gift that I can go back to in time and time again. Since that dream, I have never dreamt of him, not like that. I know he's watching my life unfold, and I know he's proud of me because he has said it so many times when he was alive. There was a reason that dream happened the way it did and when. I think he also knows that I don't need anything anymore. And just like his mommy came to get him, I asked him if he could please be the one to come and get me when it's my time. As much as we want to communicate with our loved ones after they pass, I have to believe that they know so much more than us. They know what we need and what we don't. So if you're someone who has experienced loss but has never dreamed of or experienced the person returning to try and send you a message, I think it's comforting to believe that the plans for your grief are different from what you think they should be. At the same time, this podcast has shared several stories of loved ones confirming there is a place for them after this life and it will be okay. So a friend of mine had a family member pass away in her house, and all of the family had gathered to be there with this family member at the time of their death. And at various points in the night, family members had different experiences at different times. Very strange things happened in that house. And one of the things that happened was that family members smelled really strongly the smell of fresh roses, even though there was, no roses in the house, no one was wearing that kind of perfume, blah, blah, blah. And the next morning, the palliative care nurse had a really frank conversation with the family, about how the palliative care nurse had regularly experienced family members having really strong particular smells come back around the time of death, whether it's the perfume of a loved one, often it was the smell of flowers or fresh roses, and that this palliative care nurse strongly believed that family members came to collect people when it was their time to go. And I do think it's such a beautiful sentiment, and I think there are perfumes, there are smells that are really strongly associated with particular people, and apparently our sense of smell is one of the best memory triggers that we have as human beings. And I would like to think that because he had such a strong relationship with his mother, that she was the one who came back to collect him when his time was up. Equally, Amanda, it's like you said, some people will have visitation dreams, some people won't. Some people will have experiences where they see, items or things will happen that will demonstrate to them that their loved one has come back. Some people won't. I think it depends on the person. I think it's very individual. And I think those visitation dreams offer a lot of people a huge amount of closure. And I understand what people say when they say it just didn't feel like a dream. It didn't feel like a dream. It felt like something more, something different. And if nothing else gets achieved with this podcast, when it comes to the time where I think to myself, it's time to finish the podcast, I'd like to think that if nothing else, people who have lost somebody may have gained a little bit of comfort from hearing other people's stories. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Thank you to Adrian, T and Amanda for sending in your stories. Remember, the last story came from December the 1st, 2022. And if you would like to send in your story, you can do so by emailing it to reallifeghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the website reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com. And if you are desperate for extra content, you can sign up to Patreon. That is patreon.com/reallifeghoststories, where for $5 a month or $2 a month, you get access to heaps of extra content, as well as every single main and mini episode completely ad-free. And on that note, I shall see you next time.
So, how does it feel when you play Roll Up to Win with Tim Hortons? Buy a hot or cold beverage using the Tim's app and find out. Roll in the app for a chance to win prizes ranging from free coffee and donuts to a Universal Orlando resort vacation or a sweet car. Oh, don't forget the TV. And this year, every roll is a shot at a $1,000 daily giveaway drawing for two $500 prizes. Roll up to win and get treated by Tim's. No purchase necessary. Account registration required. 50 U.S. and D.C. 18 plus. Entered by 4223. See rules at rolluptowin.com for free entry and full details. Void in Florida and where prohibited.
When it comes to work, communication is key, even if you don't have a writing job. Sounding unconfident, indecisive, or passive-aggressive can hold you back professionally and hurt your team's productivity. Grammarly Premium's advanced tone suggestions make sure you're always sending the right message. Sound clear and confident in your writing and automatically replace negative-leaning language with solution-focused alternatives. With Grammarly's help, you can build stronger relationships at work, be constructive in the face of challenges, and help your team get things done. Grammarly works where you do, so your team's projects get done before the deadline. And with features like comprehensive spelling, grammar, and clarity-focused sentence rewrites, Grammarly helps keep your writing efficient and mistake-free. The right tone can move any project forward. Get it just right with Grammarly. Go to Grammarly.com/podcast to sign up for free. Then get 20% off when you upgrade to premium. That's 20% off at Grammarly.com/podcast.